Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to First Cut. This is our review for quite a few movies today. I'm here with RB3 and Sabrina. We're going to be talking about the first movie that is kind of been in the conversation around Twitter and around film Twitter. And that is maybe not for good reasons, and that is Antebellum, the new Janelle Monáe movie that has come out. The concept is that a modern Black woman wakes up into the life of a past Civil War era slave Black woman. That's essentially giving it without spoilers. We'll probably get into spoiler territory later on in this video, so if you want to avoid that, we'll give you a time to click ahead or to click out of. But either way, guys, let's talk about Antebellum. This is a movie that RB3 went out and rented for all three of us. We all got the chance to see it, and the first person I need to go to is Mr. RB3 himself, the guy who spent the money to watch this movie. Starring one of our favorite actresses, Janelle Monáe. At least she's one of mine. I love Janelle Monáe. Literally love her. I want to hear your thoughts, man. First impressions of Antebellum.
Well, to me, Antebellum, it's a little early in the year, and early by, September, October. But in 2020 standards, it's early because we haven't gotten that many movies, right? But this is unequivocally, at this point of the year, undeniably, the worst movie of the year. And, it starts off the decade, right? Beginning of 2020. I mean, I believe this movie has the wherewithal to stay until the end. I think this could end up on one of the worst movies of the entire decade list. I do believe it can get there. This movie was absolute garbage, nonsense, ridiculous. The premise is what? Like, the idea of whatever, it's kind of hard to even talk about how blasphemous this movie is without getting into spoiler territory. But I will say, without getting into spoiler territory, there are a lot of bad other things in this movie. Like, all the white actors are terrible. And I feel like the only person who was kind of good was Janelle Monáe. But I feel like Jenna Malone, who was homeboy, Jack Hudson, terrible. I feel like almost every white person in this entire movie was absolutely god awful performance wise. Directing wise, before we even got to the twist, before we even got to that point in the movie, literally by the first 30 minutes, I wanted to walk away from the movie, not because of anything particularly in the story, but just because at a certain point it felt like torture porn. Like, it literally felt like I was just watching suffering for the sake of suffering. And then when the plot twist itself actually commences and you realize how ultimately pointless all of that was to begin with, yeah, it's an abomination of cinema. So
before I get to you, Sabrina, I kind of do want to open it up because I read an article that said it's very difficult to talk about the problems of this movie without spoiling the movie. So if you want to spoil it now, feel free to. I think I will once we get to it, and then I'll jump it back to you, RB3. But Sabrina, your thoughts?
Yeah. So if you don't want to get spoilers for this film, we will be putting timestamps, and then you can skip to the next film for this one. But for Antebellum, I just want to echo everything RB3 said. This is not a well-made film. This is not a well-told story. It seems entirely unnecessary. It's completely exploitive of the subject. Like, it really is to the point that they're showing awful things to create a reaction, but for no reason. It's just to be like, oh my God, look at these horrific images. And it's just something that is not necessary at this time. There's no motivation behind the villains of the story at all. We don't know anything about them. They don't set up any story. They don't set up any world. They don't do anything like that. We just see bad people doing bad things and then other people suffering from it. There is nothing that, it's not like in Get Out where we see the motivation and we see the reasons behind the villains of the story and what they're doing. And it's a well-told story in that way. This one, it's just, look, this is the situation. What's she gonna do? Like, it's so, are we going into spoilers now? Because I'll get into it. The way it's shown and kind of it's honestly just like hard to follow. We open up and we're in this like plantation, and I don't even know if she's having memories of her past life, so she's aware of her past life, and they're like not able to escape. I'm like, if you know that you were kidnapped, if these are memories that are happening, I don't know if it's flashbacks for the audience or if it's flashbacks that she's having. It seems like it's ones that she's having. And I'm like, if she knows she's in present day, then why don't they find a way to escape? Like, and like everything, then just nothing made sense. Like a lot of them are like, we have to wait, we have to deal with it. I don't believe that these characters would actually feel this way. It doesn't make sense for the story. They wouldn't go through this if they know that there's a way out. I just don't understand what they're trying to like say here. This is completely empty storytelling. I think they want to seem profound and deep, and it just ends up not even shallow. It's nothing. It's just flat. There's not even like a shallow little dip into it. Like, I can't stress it enough. There's nothing. We have no motivations. We have nothing. Janelle Monáe deserves better. She is so talented and she is amazing in the role, but the film is awful.
Yeah, RB3, if you want to get into spoilers, you can go on ahead as far as what happens in the story.
Well, I mean, it's what Sabrina said. Like the when the thing happens and you figure out this whole story takes place in modern day, and you realize that before that point of realizing that, up until that point, we've seen this woman get raped. We've seen this woman see other people get killed. We've seen this woman have a literal friend who commits suicide because they are a slave. That would not happen in modern times. I'm sorry. If you are a black person in America, there's no effing way you're going to get caught in some sort of slavery trap. There's no way. Like, there's no way. Whoever made this movie must think black people are the stupidest pile of dummies in the entire world. And that's what's so like upsetting about it. Like, what logic are you even? Is there even a logical path to what's going on here? Like, how in the actual conceivable, like from a foundational level, can you concede that there would be there is modern day slavery, right? There's absolutely modern day slavery. In fact, slavery in this time period, in this particular point in history, is higher than any other point in history ever. Yeah. And it happens in a lot of other countries, and it happens a lot in, the United States with the prison industrial complex, right? If you want to do something metaphorical, if you want to tell that analogy in another way, if you want to do it, to some sort of other means of portraying slavery, or if you want to tell a story about how generational trauma affects, people in our past the same way it affects people in the present, absolutely, totally get it. Like, those are powerful things that you should broach, like, in any movie. The thing that's disappointing about this movie is not only does it not broach any of those subject matters, not only is it unsubtle and, overly dramatized, overly exploitive, overly disgusting, and overly vile, regardless of like, if it took place in modern times, regardless if it took place in like the actual past in the actual 1800s or whatever. The movie in and of itself is a trashy, exploitive movie that literally exploits the tragedy and the suffering of an entire people, an entire generation, an entire community, and uses that to make this kind of horror twist that has no metaphorical like undertones, no kind of context, no rationalization. In fact, it literally just does it for the sake of doing it to scare people and to horrify people. And I don't think that's any kind of way you could approach any sort of horror movie, let alone, especially something about slaves, especially something that's coming from, this is co-directed from a black dude and a white dude, especially the fact that a black dude co-directed this, man. What? Like, did this, I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know. I like the fact that, again, there's spoilers, but people were getting raped. Like, people were getting killed. There's no way. This is going back to like that Kanye West philosophy of like, we're modern day slaves. Like, we're still in slavery. Like, okay, like, you can say that from a metaphorical standpoint. You can say that from an economical standpoint. You can't literally say that. We're not literally in slavery. Like there's no way any rational group of black people would allow themselves to be enslaved, murdered, raped in 2020. There's no way that would happen. Like, and there's literal moments where you can see wide shots of people, and there's way more black people than there are white people. There's maybe one white person holding a gun, but there's no way. This movie makes no sense. It's pathetic. It's awful. It's disgusting. I really contemplated like trying to write some letter or something to get my money back, because this was. I mean, this is like blasphemy stuff right here. So.
Yeah, it's strange, right? Because the concept they're trying to hit is the concept of the white fetish of beating up black people, or putting down black people that still exists today, and frankly, it probably does still exist today, quite a lot, actually.
Yeah.
But the idea that if modern black people were subjugated to this kind of role playing torture porn that goes on, pretty much all of them would try, like you said, to not go with it, to literally start an uprising as soon as they get there. If you know that all they want to do is torture you and rape you, there's kind of no other choice. If you have any kind of independence, which kind of shows you that, like you said, RB3, are they saying black people have no independence, and they would go back to the old school mentality of codependence and not being a rational enough person to literally have independent thinking? That to me is becomes like a very weird thing that they're trying to say. And also, we have to talk about the idea of Janelle Monáe's character, and it's something that maybe it's something that I maybe just caught on, or maybe every one of you guys thought about this too. But the idea that the one person to escape happens to be the super rich person isn't necessarily the right thing to say either. And that's not any shade towards Janelle Monáe's character saying that she shouldn't have been rich. I'm just saying, because she was well off is because she escaped. Her skills with horse jumping, her skills with yoga, her skills with knowledge of the time or whatever. The idea that her upbringing makes her superior to all other
like
black
this exceptional
people?
This exceptional Negro. Like they present not only, and by the way, like you're right, Sabrina, there are literal times where characters are like, it's not the right moment, it's not the right time. What do you mean? What are you talking about? What are you saying? Like, what do you mean it's not the right time? Like,
right now, if in modern day, if anyone was kidnapped, groups of people like in the movie Saw or anything like that, and you're in a situation where you're just standing there, like all of them are just standing there, people go to sleep. It's a small community, but honestly, it's mostly the kidnapped black people. So that's what they would do. That's what they would do. Like it's mostly them in that community. They have like the Jenna Malone character, and other than that, but it's mostly them, and they would be able to do it. So that's why when I was watching it, I was like, there is no way that you can tell me that she's actually flashbacking. I thought they were trying to show the audience what was happening. I was like, there's no way she's flashbacking to like her old life and aware of all this stuff. I'm like, trying to think, I'm like, did they possibly wipe their minds or something like that?
Yeah, I thought it was some brainwashing. I thought maybe it was like a spell, like maybe she was teleported back or transported back. Like that would make sense. Like if it's during like actual slavery times and she's put during in that situation, totally, that makes a lot more sense. The fact that it's 2020 and there's all these black people here, like, no.
I think that's what the book did, right? I think the book is actually like she actually wakes up in her ancestor's body. I think that's what it is in the book.
That's the book. That's Kindred, right? Like that's the
Kindred,
yeah. So that's in a famous book written by Octavia Butler. Which is an amazing book. I don't know if this movie's a direct adaptation of that. It's definitely, I guess, I'm sure it's influenced by it.
Yeah, but it's like a loose adaptation, I think, or like you said, influenced.
But it's just, it's not good. And I think if you read Kendrick, this movie kind of directly flies in the opposite side of it. Like it does exactly the opposite of what that book is intending to do. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, there's just so many things that seem so wrong and out of place. The second act with the modern times goes on for so long.
The pacing, also, that's also a thing. Like the pacing in
Like,
this movie is terrible,
yeah,
terrible. I felt like exhausted in the first 45 minutes before we even get to modern stuff, and the modern stuff literally just puts you right to sleep. And we go
yeah,
back to the slavery stuff, you're just dreading every second of it, and it ends on this terrible, terrible, long, overdrawn, boring, awful slow motion sequence where she's riding this whole. Oh my god, it's just terrible. And it's the Civil War. Oh, it's a Civil War reenactment the entire time.
yeah.
And these are, I don't get it, man. I don't know. 0 out of 10 for me, man. This is a straight goose egg. There's nothing redeemable about this movie.
Yeah.
It's absolutely awful, awful, awful. Cannot unrecommend more. And I don't know. I mean, there's people, there's Razzies or whatever. I don't even think this should even get that kind of look because I think this movie should just kind of just go underwater and nobody ever think about it for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
We've been talking about for the past few months. We're like, oh, I wonder how this would like work in a theater, how this comedic timing with certain films. This one, I can't even imagine what it would be like to go to ArcLight or go to something like that with an audience full of people watching this movie. I genuinely believe that people would probably walk out because it's disturbing. There's nothing like enthralling or captivating about this movie at all that makes you want to watch it. The only reason we watched it is to talk about it this way. But like, if for fun, I would have not continued it. I think people would have more people would have seen it if it was in a theater because the trailer looked like something possibly interesting. But I think people would have been very disappointed in theaters and vocally so. I think there would have been so many parts that people would really be like, what? Like,
It's just weird the way they do it. The writing is very not good.
Yeah, terrible dialogue.
Terrible dialogue.
Yeah.
Terrible story structure. The way they, like you said, Sabrina, you have no idea what's going on.
No motivation, seemingly, for like a lot of these characters. Like, it's just awful.
And
they
the
did
torture,
nothing right.
The torture porn aspect of it is something that I think is the biggest part of what makes this movie just not work, to be honest.
Yeah.
The idea of seeing black people get beat up by white people and get burned and get branded and get raped.
Yeah.
It's not entertaining to me in any way.
Yeah, it doesn't make you mad at the villains or anything because we don't know their motivation. It just makes us disturbed and it's just uncomfortable, but not in a way that sometimes we need to see certain things in storytelling. This is just for the sake of like, look how horrific this is. This is this like horror, like thriller drama type of film, and it just does not work on any of those levels in any sense. Everything that we've said with the lack of motivations and the storytelling.
Yeah, the guy who loses his wife is a good actor. That's all I'll say. The guy in the beginning. I mean, those actors are great. Janelle Monáe as well. She's very good. That's kind of it, to be honest. I can't lie. When I saw Jenna Malone, I was like, yo, Jenna Malone's here. I haven't seen her in a minute.
Yeah.
I love Jenna Malone. That's one of the, I don't know. I'm always going to love her. But yeah, I get that she was very over the top and very
terrible
silly.
accent.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Well, speaking of accents, let's get to our second film. And our second film has all the Southern accents you can possibly want. And literally all the actors on the planet. There was nonstop cameos in this movie and actors that just kept popping up that I had no idea were going to be in this movie. We're going to be talking about the Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, Devil All the Time movie that came out on Netflix last week. I saw this when it came out, and it starts out with homeboy Skarsgård, my boy Pennywise. I had no idea he was even going to be in this movie. But again, it's the story of this West Virginian town, I believe it's West Virginia, that has a lot of issues going on with it. And a lot of it's centered around religion and church, and kind of this traditional way that people are set about. And kind of how, frankly, I guess the point of the movie is how religion destroys people, because that's kind of all I took away from it, and how evil people can be when they're believing that they're right because they think that God told them they're right. So if you want another vile, despicable acts that commit in this movie, here's another movie that does it. What did you guys think of this one? This is another one that I thought, if I'm being honest, was an odd movie. I think that's odd is the best way I can say it. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot of story. Obviously, this is a large ensemble. When I was an hour in, I felt like I was already done with the movie just because it feels so long. It drags on, and there's a lot. But I thought it was fine. I definitely thought it was odd. I agree with you on that. I think there was aspects that I really enjoyed, which a lot of that was Tom Holland's performance, Robert Pattinson's performance, Eliza Scanlen's performance.
Bill Skarsgård.
Bill Skarsgård. A lot of the performances, actually, all the actors did what they had to do. So all of them were great, basically. But the characters were kind of the issues for me. There was a lot of characters, particularly Sebastian Stan for me, didn't work like at all throughout the entire film. I just didn't understand anything because it is so dense and so like character focused, and we're going back and forth through, and then we're going through decades. The story structure was something that I thought was interesting because obviously everything's interwoven. It definitely is it's kind of a lot to watch, and I think it deals with that religion aspect and like morality, ethics, and death in a particular way that I do find kind of interesting. So there was parts that I enjoyed, and then there was parts that I just didn't really care for. So I'm kind of in the middle on this one. I don't really have a straight opinion. I would tell anybody, because it's on Netflix, to check it out for themselves. But it's a hard watch because it's very heavy and dark.
Well, I think that's why I didn't care for it, because I felt like I got the point of it very quickly, obviously, with the aspect of how religion can corrupt, even though it's something that's supposed to be pure. We meet the crazy psycho preacher played by Harry Potter homie Harry Melling, who is so funny because I saw him come up and I'm like, yo, it's him, it's homeboy from Harry Potter. And then we see him jumping with the spiders. Spoilers, guys, I apologize ahead of time, but to me, it just felt like an escalation of just psycho things that you can do. He stabs his wife in the neck, kills him and tries to raise her, dumps spiders on his face. Bill Skarsgård is crucifying dogs. Like, it just felt so unnecessarily vile. Like, what's his face's character? Jason, what's his name? Jason Clarke. It being like this weird psycho, creepy, porn, rapey, like murder guy who likes to torture people for a living and take pictures of them as they get tortured. It felt like, yeah, well, this guy crucified a dog. Oh yeah, well, this guy stabbed his wife. Oh yeah, well, this guy cut off his dick. And I'm just like, cool. And then Robert Pattinson is a rapist preacher that we all want Tom Holland to kill him. It's just weird because we're rooting for Tom Holland to kill this guy, and we're all waiting for it. We're like, yeah, kill him. It just felt weird. I don't know. It just felt like a movie that it wanted to be edgy and creepy for edgy and creepy sake, and not actually really communicate an efficient message about religion and destruction of religion, because it's just a quick escalation. There's never any kind of buildup. At least anyone that's not Tom Holland's character. Because Tom Holland's did have a little bit of buildup, but everyone else was just crazy and psycho for crazy and psycho's sake. I don't know if you have any thoughts, RB3.
I mean, yeah, I definitely get like the analogy I was trying to make, how you could be an evil person and still be a practicer or a petitioner.
Or because of being a practicer, you are that evil, because that gives you that power.
Yeah, because and the abuse of power. Right?
Exactly.
And I think that's something that was broached on in one of my favorite movies of last year, of 2018, which we've talked about on a number of occasions, First Reformed. And then and there's other. I think when I thought about this movie, I thought a lot about There Will Be Blood, right? Particularly Paul Dano's character.
That's exactly who I thought about.
His preacher character.
Right? I wanted to murder Paul Dano's character in There Will Be Blood. I hated that guy.
Yeah. And that's what I think that's where they're trying to, they're trying to go to the darkest, creepiest preachers you could imagine in the world, or darkest, creepiest religious people in the world. How can that go? I definitely feel you, Ace. I mean, the same reason that I kind of had a hard time with The Boys first season is a lot of the same reason why I have a hard time with this show, because I feel like it's trying to say a lot, do very vile and very violent and very disgusting acts, but it doesn't really go into the text. It just shows you like the blood and the action. It doesn't really go into like the headiness of it. I think more of the personality and all that come from the performances. I do think the performances are really good. I think Mark Pattinson, as much as his character is unlikable, I think he gives a magnificent performance, and Tom Holland gives a great performance as well. I mean, I love seeing Tom Holland and non-Spider-Man stuff too. Anytime he does that, because he reminds us how great of an actor he is. But yeah, even Bill Skarsgård is great. All these actors are doing a really, really great job. It's just, it's tough for me to say if I can even rewatch this movie to a certain extent for a lot of those reasons. Like, I don't know if this is just too much for me. It's too much of a vile, big, over the top thing, and not enough introspection for me. And it's kind of tough with these big scrawling character pieces with a lot of like a big ensemble cast. It's kind of tough to do that, and I applaud movies that are successfully able to do that. And I think that's why something like There Will Be Blood or a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson's work works really well with that. And I think this movie, in a lot of ways, from a cinematography standpoint, beautiful. In a lot of ways, like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie or a Coen Brothers movie, where it's very beautifully shot, magnificent, like engagement with camera and perspective and gore and violence and all that. I just don't think it had that meat and that oomph that I wanted to justify how violent and all that kind of stuff it was. So
I just forgot too. We have like a 16-year-old girl commit suicide after having a kid. Like, there's just so many dark. I didn't even remember that part, and that's probably the darkest one of them all. But it's that idea of just to me felt like being disturbing for disturbing's sake and not really getting anywhere. I don't know.
It really was, because I don't know, because I know this is based off of a novel. I don't know the way the novel goes, and I don't know how close it was or how much they diverted away from that. But Eliza Scanlen's character is that girl, and it's because at the last second, like, spoilers, she changes her mind, but it still happens. She already put herself in that position. So it just like something like that could have been a lot better if maybe they just stuck with like her changing her mind about it, and then they kind of have this idea, they bring up something of substance to kind of go along with everything that's happening. And it's like, because also they're going a lot through generations and through parents and lineage, and so it would have been nice to like divert away from what their parents went through and what their parents did, because they seem to continue on the same fate, the same type of horrific stuff that happens around the family. It just keeps happening. So it would have been interesting if maybe they had her not do that, and then they find a way to continue and cope and go through what they are and this battle of like ethics and morality that they're having within this small town and with like religion. It could have been something interesting if certain parts were different, because we see characters and we get narration and we get a lot of details, and it's almost like if you don't pay attention for a few seconds, like you're gonna miss like details that we're gonna see soon later. But it just keeps happening so quickly and coming at you so fast. If you miss it for a second, like, you're not gonna understand what's happening until we get to that point later on. And so the structure of it I thought was interesting, but I don't know if it necessarily 100% worked completely. And I agree with everything you guys said.
Yeah. To me, what's another interesting aspect of this movie, and I guess I'll close off here, is the idea of like rooting for less evil and rooting for violence. I don't know how you guys felt about that, but that's something that I was very interested in the movie, because when we first find out about Jason Clarke's character, he's doing it to a guy that just murdered his wife and he was a psycho. So part of me was like, oh, cool, good riddance. Peace, dude. You deserve to get shot in the face. And then rooting for Tom Holland to beat up other kids, I thought was kind of funny, where I was like, yeah, go beat him up, beat the shit out of him. Like, I don't know how you guys felt about us rooting for more acts of violence, because I was like, go kill Robert Pattinson, bro. Like, he's got to die. He has to die.
100%. That goes back to everything. We keep going through the same cycle over and over and over. And it's like we're manipulated as an audience going through everything that our characters are, because they're like, oh, this happens, now I'm going to seek revenge in this way, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to commit this act of violence. And so then we're rooting for it as well. And that goes with that ethics and morality and death that we're kind of consumed with this entire film. And so it manipulates us in the same way that we understand what our characters are going through, because it's like the lesser of two evils. It's like violence begets more violence in this film. That's honestly how it is. It's, you do something wrong, you need to pay for it. But they do it in a way that manipulates us as an audience. So
and to me, at least Tom Holland's character felt a little bit relevant in the sense of everything he did kind of made sense. Everything else to me just kind of didn't work, especially like the Bill Skarsgård stuff. I was like, oh, cool. He's kind of a creepy dad, but he's not crazy. And then he goes and freaking crucifies animals. And I'm just like, come on, dude. Like that, it came out of nowhere to me. It didn't seem anything like this character would do, considering he didn't even believe and he didn't even pray beforehand. So I don't know. That's just me. Those are my thoughts. And now we're going to move on to our final movie. And that is exactly the same tone, Enola Holmes. This is a Millie Bobby Brown, Sherlock Holmes, a side quest movie, adventure movie, fourth wall breaking movie. What do you guys think? The first question I want to ask you, what do you think the target audience is for this movie? I think I got it at the end, but it took me a while at first.
Well, I think it's something really interesting because I feel like a lot of people could enjoy this. You don't have to be like a young teenage girl to see something like this. This could go in a lot of different directions. Fans of Sherlock, if they're open to new ideas and they're open to seeing a film where he's kind of one of the side characters, one of the supporting characters, and having somebody else shine, I think is interesting. I'm not like a Sherlock Holmes fan, but I know there's a lot of people who are really.
RB3 is, RB3 reads Sherlock Holmes books.
I know a lot of people are passionate about the subject, so I wonder about if they find it refreshing and this is something that they want to see, because we've gotten Sherlock so many times. So I think this is something that's a little unique and interesting. And I want to say, gosh, compared to the other two that we just reviewed, this one was like a breath of fresh air. This one was so nice to see, so alleviating for all the stress and tension and everything that we dealt with the last two films. I loved this movie, actually.
Really?
I really genuinely enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It is what it is. I'm not expecting it to be the cinematic masterpiece. Like,
it is what it is.
It is what it is. And that's exactly it. And it does what it wants to do successfully, in my opinion. I think it's fun. I think the storytelling that they do is really great and believable in terms of like believing that Enola is this young, just very intelligent, very courageous young girl. And it's nice to see that. I love seeing women be the protagonists of a film where they get to really shine and they get to be shown in a positive light. And, you know, she's a teenage girl, so she has like certain little like tiny flaws here and there. She's not like this perfect going through everything, but it's very light. So even though she's just like a human and it's not like she's Rey Skywalker or anything like that in a film. She doesn't have any special powers. She's just an intelligent young girl. She's just a human. I know I brought it up and I see her face.
I was like, what's wrong with Rey?
No, but I'm saying it's not like how we're going. A lot of the times that we've seen, we're like, oh, this is your lineage. You're this way. We see with Mulan, there's the Chi. I love that this one, she's just a young girl. She's
a Holmes. She's literally the smartest person on the planet. That's her older brother, and she's like a savant genius.
Well, she's really
so she is like Rey.
Still like a teenage girl, and she's not under. There's like really great sequences of like action and adventure, and so we're going on this journey with her, and I really enjoyed it. And I feel like the target audience is anybody who kind of is looking for something fun and light. And Millie Bobby Brown, I need to finish off this thought with this. She is so freaking good in this. I was kind of nervous about her going forward just because she's so celebrated as 11 in Stranger Things. I was like, how
she's
can
really
she
good.
Because she's amazing. But I was like, how can she, I wonder how going forward in her career, she's so young and she's so talented. But I was like, going forward, I hope she's not put into this kind of box where she's always playing these dramatic characters. And this was amazing to see because she's young and she's talented as hell. And she's very like fresh-faced and fun. And she kind of just gets to have a good time with this film. And you could tell with the fourth wall breaking, which is a little heavy-handed throughout the entire film, but it's the director also directs Fleabag.
Oh, there you
So
go. I didn't
that's the
even know that.
thing. Yeah. So, I mean, Fleabag is full of that fourth wall breaking. So they really brought it into this. Whether it works for everybody, that's up to you guys. For me, most of the time it worked and most of the time I enjoyed it. And I thought Millie Bobby Brown's charisma worked with it because the reason why Fleabag works with that fourth wall breaking is because Phoebe Waller-Bridge is just immensely talented. And Millie Bobby Brown was able to do a similar type of thing. And so it works successfully, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, I started to catch on to the audience a little bit later in the film because at first I wasn't sure, but I really do feel like it is for a younger audience, and that's a good thing. I don't feel like that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's that weird blend where at times I was like, okay, this is definitely for teenage girls, and then at times I was like, okay, she's getting waterboarded. That's a bit much. That's a
Yeah.
lot, and she got beat the crap out of her by this creepy old man. Who's very creepy in the movie. Great job. And those were the times where I was like, okay, I don't know what the audience is now. But for the most part, you know what, the running theme, and it just kept hitting it and it hit it and it hit it and it hit it over the head, Sabrina. And I realized like this could be the same people who watch what's the crappy movies that show up on Netflix?
Like Kissing Booth.
Kissing Booth and the one with
To All the Boys I Loved
Boys,
Before.
yes, Boys I Loved Before. Same audience, different genre, different adaptation, different story structure, where these little girls are 14, 15, 13, however old they are, can watch this crazy kind of edgy action film, but at the same time be reminded of, hey, let's be ourselves, let's be unique, let's be different, let's not follow the mold, let's not wear what everyone wants us to wear, let's not be this old school conservative way. Let's change the mold, let's be the future, let's change the vote. Like literally the whole third act of this movie is about a vote. Like it's a very political movie, and I really did like that because it made it seem like, hey, this is a fun adventure involving Sherlock Holmes kind of, and at the same time it's able to say back in this time during the women's suffrage movement, women were gangsters. Like they were literally going to the streets and protesting every single day, women of all ages, and were trying to go out and try to get themselves to vote, and they weren't able to. So I really like the political aspect of this movie, and I really like the line that that one actress had to Sherlock Holmes about how Sherlock never cared about politics because it doesn't affect him. I don't know if you remember that line, but it's a reminder of like, hey, this is happening whether you like it or not. Like politics is involved with you, whether you're not involved with politics. So you might as well, get involved and learn. So I did like that message throughout the movie, kind of telling these girls to be like, you could be yourselves and you could be quick-witted and smart and independent. And at the same time, there's like this side story about a cute boy. And it's like, look at this cute teenage boy. And I was like, okay, this is definitely it's definitely one of those Netflix movies.
I thought they did that well, actually, balancing
Sure.
that kind of like that teenage boy like.
She's like, I'm an independent little girl, but I have a crush on a teenage boy.
It happens. But
It's
what
true.
you were saying before, I do think it's really interesting because it is like a coming of age movie.
Yeah.
With just this detective aspect, with this
Mhm.
political aspect. So for younger audiences, for young women who are watching it, it can be very powerful and like very uplifting. But I think that anyone can really enjoy it. I
Sure.
really do believe that like anybody of any ages can. We haven't had a super light, just fun film in a while. And even though it's not always light, there are the heavier moments like you're talking about with the waterboarding and the action and the fighting sequences, like
Yeah.
all of that. It's this weird mix, but to me, they do it very well. They balance out this mix because I didn't expect her to get waterboarded in this film at all. So I really liked how they handled everything, and I thought it flowed nice. It was a little bit long. I just didn't expect it to be like 2 hours long. Is a little bit, but I mean, it's on Netflix. It's easy for people to watch if you want to throw it on and just kind of hang out one night, eat some pizza. I would say it's a fun time. It's probably one of my favorite things that I've watched since Bill and Ted. So it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, I really like certain aspects of this movie. There's a few lines. I already mentioned the political line, but I really like her fourth wall breaks. Are very playful and very, again, centered towards a younger audience that work. When the last part of the movie hit and the final scene hit, and she looks to the audience and she goes like, "Hey, this is my life. I can do what I want." And then she says, "The future is up to us." I was like, "Oh, that's perfect." That literally hits the nail on the head as far as what the point of the movie is. The point of the movie is showing you like, look at this ancient time period, ancient as in like the 1800s, and look at how this movement is similar to current movements that are currently going on when it comes to equality for women. And when it comes to people's perspectives on change, aka the grandma character, and holding on to the past of old England and how she is the future. We are the future. The younger generation can pick up these things, pick up a book, learn, reach out, learn, protest. Like this is the kind of stuff that I really did like that the movie touched upon, and at the same time packaged that for a younger teenage girl audience. I thought that was really cool because I was like, yeah, this is a good way for little teenage girls to be like, oh, hey, I'm relevant and I can be involved in certain issues and certain subjects that should be relevant to me. So
Yeah,
I
and
like
it does
that.
it in that accessible way, and it's very easy to consume. And I'm really excited to see what Millie Bobby Brown does going forward. I've always praised her and always said that even just in interviews and everything like that, she holds herself with such poise and
Yeah.
such grace for being the age that she is. What is she, like 17 or
16,
something?
17, yeah.
16, 17. That's incredible to see,
Yeah.
because obviously we saw her in Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Mhm.
And like that was fine, but it wasn't really, she didn't get to shine the way she did in this film. And so I'm happy she got this moment, and I'm excited to see her going forward, because the amount of talent she shows and the amount of promise going forward when she's already this good at such a young age, like I know there's going to be really great things. And also I know the Stranger Things kids, the It kids, like all those kids have huge fan bases. It's like
Yes, they
they have
do.
huge young fan bases on like
Yes.
TikTok
This
and
movie's got
everything.
already a lot of views, I bet, just
Yeah.
based off her.
Exactly. They have that like fan base behind them. They really do. So I think I think a lot of people are gonna watch it and a lot of people are gonna enjoy it. So
Yeah, I do like the themes and the messages of this movie. I think it works. There's a moment in the movie when they discover the plot of Grandma, kind of spoilers, not really. And the young kid goes, "Your time is up," and I was like, "Oh, I get it." The line, "Your time is up," as in we caught you, but also as like your generation, your old people, time is up. It really kind of hit the nail on the head as far as the themes of this movie. But I like it. I like how it was. It had perspectives on moments in history, and it wasn't shying away from certain political aspects of it all. What's his face? Superman. I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting
Henry
his name.
Cavill.
Henry
How
Cavill.
have we not
Yeah.
talked about Henry
You know
Cavill?
why we haven't talked about Henry Cavill? Because Sam Claflin is in this movie. My boy is in this movie with the mustache, playing a stingy conservative dude.
Yeah.
Minecraft Holmes. It's Mycroft. My bad, guys. But still, I thought it was funny. I was like, his name is Minecraft Holmes. Yeah, him and Henry Cavill. What do you think of him as Sherlock? Because to me, I'm still not sure.
Okay, so I'm not a Sherlock person, so I'm
Okay.
totally like I'm not an expert on this, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. I thought he
Okay.
was great. I thought the acting was great. I thought his character was great. I liked
I
the
like how
character dynamic.
he can't even fit in his suit. He's just
He was like
so buff.
big buff. That's
I'm
the
Sherlock
thing.
Holmes.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's interesting because he's just this super buff, like incredibly handsome Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah,
So I mean, and intelligent too. So I mean, he got
yeah.
it all. He's a
I want
triple.
my Sherlock ugly though. That's what I need. It's like my Peter Parker ugly. Um.
So
Uh.
dramatic.
No, I'm just playing, but it's still.
You
I
know.
thought it was funny.
So what did you think then? Like what about Henry Cavill?
I liked it. I just felt like his role was so minimal that he had just little quippy lines where he's like, "Yeah, if I deduced that this was there and this was there," and I was like, that's kind of all he's doing. I want to see. I wanted to see a little bit more. I can't lie. Maybe just because I like Sherlock the character, so I was like, man, I want to see more Sherlock.
Well, they tease a little. They definitely tease like a sequel or continuation, which I
Yeah,
think is going to do well. So they tease that, and I know it kind of seems like they might possibly like work together on something down the line, like because they both know that they're intelligent and they're great detectives clearly
yeah,
from this adventure that she went on. So I think they chose him for a reason. I think he will be back with her probably in a bigger role down the line in the future. But even though they did tease a sequel, this is a really great standalone film. Like, you don't need, it's not one of those that's like a build up to something else. It's definitely great on its own. But they probably could be a sequel.
I also heard that there could be a series. Like if she does, Enola just solves a detective work on her own or something like that. I could see that happening too, as a Netflix, like Enola Holmes investigates or whatever.
Yeah, Millie Bobby Brown, it's gonna be a hit.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Also, my final thing is I like the relationship between Mycroft and Sherlock. I like that they're complete polar opposites, but because they're brothers, they just always find a way back together. That final scene where they're like, he's like, yeah, you know what? I think I'll make her my ward. And he's like, fine, you can have her. And then he's like, hey, you want to get a beer? Yeah, let's get a beer. Like, that to me felt so like relatable, where it's like these two brothers who like each other, but kind of don't like each other, but still love each other. I thought that was really, really good. And shout out to my boy, Finnick O'Dear. Screw President Snow, Hunger Games all the way, District 6, let's go. Youngest competitor to win the Hunger Games. Finnick is like my favorite character.
Yeah, he was great. I enjoyed him a lot. I enjoyed Helena Bonham Carter. I thought she was amazing as the mom, and the relationship that her and Bobby Brown had, the chemistry of their relationship, so good. Yeah. So great.
We don't get a lot of good mom characters, so that's a good one.
Yeah, it's really tough because, I mean, we're shown that entire little family. We're shown Millie Bobby Brown, Helena Bonham Carter, but they're not even like together ever. They're all separated. Yeah. But you can get an idea of the dynamic of their relationships, even though they're all separated and they're not together. So I think that's really great character focus, like storytelling, when we know the dynamics that they have when they're not all four on screen at the dinner table. It's something that's really cool. So yeah, I enjoyed a lot of it. Definitely the most fun I had. I mean, we talked about Antebellum. We talked about the devil all the time. I actually laughed and smiled during this, so that was nice. That was a nice change of pace.
My favorite part of the fourth wall break is when she does, because all of them are just comments or little side comments. But when she's like, I don't know how to get out of here. What do you guys think? I was like, okay, Dora. Okay, it's like, what do you think? Where is Diego? Where is Boots? But yeah, I just thought that was funny. Where I was like, really? You're asking me what to do? But RB3, what do you think?
Yeah. I haven't seen this one yet.
After all that time. Yeah. Full disclosure, guys, we knew ahead of time RB3 hadn't seen it. I just thought it was funny how we went on for 10 minutes and we never acknowledged it.
Yeah. No, I'm here for it.
I'm sure people are going to comment that, so I had to point it out before they did. But either way, guys, this concludes our review session. What is your guys' favorite off the top right now? RB3, you haven't seen Enola, so I'm assuming Devil all the time.
Yeah, I mean, if I got to compare Devil all the time versus Antebellum, yeah, I'm going to go with Devil all the time. But it's like, I don't know. It's like, which kid do you hate least? I don't know.
Yeah. And Sabrina, Enola?
You hate least?
Yeah, I was like, what?
It's so funny. Mine's definitely Enola Holmes. Okay. Yeah, obviously you guys can tell from my thoughts.
And you guys can let us know in the comments down below if you're going to be watching any of these three films, or if you've already seen them, what your thoughts are. Let us know if you agree or disagree with us. Go ahead and comment down below. Let us know. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. First Cut and First Cut TMO. You can follow us on social media, and you can follow RB3 at
Director RB3.
Sabrina.
Twitter and Instagram at Sabrina X Monica, and then also on Twitter at Sabrina on Film.
And I'm at Squad Leader Race. You can follow me there for all the good tweets. Thank you so much for watching, guys. For the First Cut crew, we are peacing out.
This ain't funny, so don't you dare laugh. With the 4/5 divide you in half. You getting at me equals a bloodbath. You do the math.